30 Minutes with Ron. Welcome. This is the first show of 30 Minutes with Ron, and I happen to be the person known as Ron. My last name is Gagliardi, and I'm a Cheshire resident, and I've been on a couple of cable television shows in the past. You may remember Rendezvous if you've been around since the 90s. And some of our shows are interview shows. And tonight's interview show will have a delightful guest. I've so enjoyed meeting him prior to the show. This is Keith Brilliant. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ron.
Good to have you, sir.
Good to be here. Thank you very much.
Now, I never met Keith before, but I knew that he was involved with a place in Cheshire near the library. That would be a place that people would be able to find out where you are. That's a good landmark.
Very good.
Okay, so the place is the Hope Pregnancy Center?
Yes, that's correct.
What do you do there?
Well, how much time do you have? In one summary statement, we provide free and confidential services to pregnant women and to new moms and their babies.
Okay. And so, like, if there were a dad involved, could he also get some information?
Oh, absolutely. We would help the dad. Many times we help the parents, the mother of the woman who's pregnant, the father of the woman, the whole family.
Okay. Now, you shared with me this delightful brochure. I don't know if we can see that, but there's a name, Hope Pregnancy Center, with a young lady. And it says, you have questions, we can help.
Yes.
What can you help with?
Well, we can help with lots of things. First of all, when someone's pregnant, no matter how young or how old they are, they have lots of questions about themselves, about the baby. So we try to provide answers, whatever the question. We listen a lot, just like you're doing tonight, listening a lot. And whatever questions they have about pregnancy, about labor, about delivery, we try to answer those questions for them. As they come up, we address them one by one.
Okay. And when it says here, you can get all the information so you can make an informed decision. What is that information? What is the packet?
Well, the information is, again, what to expect during the pregnancy, what to expect during the labor, during the delivery, and even afterwards, after the baby's born. We'll talk about it later about parenting classes, but we want to explain the whole situation, even after the baby's born, how the baby's up every 2.5 hours to be changed and to be fed and to be burped, and the whole process repeats itself every 2.5 hours. We try to tell them the whole situation.
Fun parts.
That is part of the fun.
Of course. Okay, so now in this section we have the free and confidential services including.
Okay.
Why don't we go down one by one?
Okay. First of all, I want to emphasize that they are free. Everything I'm going to talk about tonight, 100% free, never a charge. Everything we're going to provide tonight is 100% confidential. That's important.
Okay.
The first one is the pregnancy test. We want to provide them a pregnancy test that's a good pregnancy test that has served us well for over 20 years, always been accurate. They don't have to pay anything for the test, and the results are confidential. For example, suppose you came in with a young lady, the young lady's pregnant. We would do the pregnancy test. We would ask you to leave the room. We would tell the young lady the results of the test, and we would encourage her to tell you, obviously, but it's confidential only to her. We wouldn't charge her for the test, and only she would know the result. No matter who she came in with, a friend, a parent, a boyfriend, we would tell the young lady and encourage her to tell the other person.
Okay.
Someone to talk to, just like we're doing tonight. Sometimes it's a short conversation, sometimes it's a conversation that takes hours. We never charge for any of the time that we talk to someone, that we answer questions. We just sit the way we're sitting now, talk and listen, answer all the questions that come up. Questions that we can't answer, we find the answer and we get back to them. There's never a charge for that time, and everything that's discussed, 100% confidential. We have educational materials about the things I talked about the pregnancy, the labor, the delivery, the baby, raising the child. We have DVDs, we have CDs, anything they need. Now, this is also good for students, because a lot of time a student has to do a report for school.
Right.
And we'll give them information, anything they want about pregnancy, about babies, anything at all given out free and all given out confidentially. We do a lot of referrals for financial, legal, and medical aid. I'm a social worker. This is a big part of what I do with Hope Pregnancy Center. We make sure that every person that comes to Hope Pregnancy Center has food, clothing, shelter, and medical insurance. We make sure if they have legal needs, we have an attorney that's available to us that will work with the client. Either the client will call the attorney or the attorney will call the client, whatever the client wants for their convenience, that will help. Free legal advice, all done confidentially. And medical aid. We make sure that the woman has a doctor for herself during the pregnancy, and that the woman has a doctor for her baby after the baby's born. Again, these referrals can take time, days, weeks, maybe a month, but there's never a charge for anything we do for them, and it's all done confidentially. We also do referrals for adoption in maternity homes. A lot of time the woman has the baby, she doesn't want to raise the child. That's fine. We work with adoption agencies, they're free of charge, it's all a confidential arrangement that's made. And we do that as long as it takes. We can have a meeting in our office, we can have a meeting at the adoption agency, whatever the client wants.
Makes sense.
And the maternity homes. This comes up quite a bit. Sometimes when a young woman finds out she's pregnant, either her mother or her father or both ask her to leave the home. So sometimes she needs a maternity home, someplace to stay. Now, if she is 18 or older, she's a legal adult. She could stay in your home, she could stay in my home.
Yep.
If she's 17 or younger, she has to go to a licensed, registered maternity homes. So we keep a network of those maternity homes for the older women and for the younger women. Again, there's no charge for those places, and all the arrangements are confidential. I had mentioned the parenting classes. We've focused for so many years on pregnancy, labor, delivery, and childbirth, but take the baby home, didn't know what to expect about that every 2.5 hours.
Yes, there's a lot to be expected.
There is a lot. After you're expecting,
it,
very
yeah.
good. So that continues with a parenting class. Usually it's one-on-one, but it can also be if there's a couple of women that are going to have a baby around the same time and they don't mind taking the class together, we'll do that together. Free class, confidential discussions. The last is baby clothes, furnishings, and equipment. We will give out free baby clothes for a little boy, for a little girl, or yellow. If it's neutral, they don't know who's coming yet. All free of charge. Furnishings is anything that's needed for the baby's room, a crib, a high chair, and things for other things. A car seat, very, very important. Provide all those things free of charge, and any other equipment that's necessary. Again, all these things are given out free. All these things are done confidentially. So if your audience remembers 2 things about what we talked about tonight, please remember free, and please remember confidential.
Excellent.
Okay.
And I was actually aware of your place because a couple years ago we donated a crib.
Well, I'm glad you did.
And there were some very nice people there.
They are very nice people because they care about the people that we're helping. That's something we sort of missed on the first page
the care.
About finding out if you're pregnant. We have had women call us or come to the office who are absolutely sure that they were pregnant. Did the pregnancy test, and they weren't. We've had women who sure they're not pregnant, take the test, and they were. So have to find out for sure if they're pregnant. And we talk about talking with someone who cares. Tonight, I'm doing a lot of the talking, you're doing a lot of the listening, and usually our roles are reversed with the woman. We do a lot of listening, whether it's on the phone or in person, but we try to tell them, we care about you, we care about your baby, we care about the baby's father, we care about the grandparents. It's a whole family system that's involved. We care about everybody. And again, we want to express that we're here to provide free and confidential services, and we care about the people involved.
Right. Now, when we were talking earlier, before we got on stage, you mentioned a call you got from a woman in Southington.
We'll talk about our coverage area later. One time, I was there in the evening, a call came in, a woman from Southington. I went through the procedure, we asked her questions and things, and the question I always ask at the end is, how did you hear about Hope Pregnancy Center? And she said to me, I liked your ad. It was back in the Yellow Pages days. And she didn't say, I saw your ad. She said, I liked your ad. So I said, what did you like about our ad?
Yep.
She said, it said, we care. And unfortunately, we were talking before that not too many people care. People care about themselves, but they don't care about anybody else. So for her to see that someone cared meant a lot to her. So it's true, we do, and we do our best to help.
Now, when you were talking before about legal issues, I was thinking, what could be a legal issue someone would need help with?
Okay, that's a good question. Sometimes a legal thing comes up about the age of the father or the mother of the child. We've dealt with that. Sometimes things come up about interstate issues. Obviously, most of our people come from Connecticut, but we have had calls from New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. So sometimes there's interstate issues. The laws in Connecticut don't apply, so we need an attorney to research other states to find out we're not on shaky legal ground.
Gotcha. Now, what if I were a patient or client, I guess?
Client?
Client, not a patient.
Yes.
Client, yes. And you were interviewing me.
Okay.
I hear there's a form for this.
I have a form that we use so we don't forget to ask important questions. First thing we ask is name. We have to have that. Once upon a time, people could be anonymous, but in today's day and age, we have to have a name and identification, so we'll get that. We ask the person's age. We have had women as young as 14 years old call us. We've had women as old as 44 years old call us. So for a 14-year-old young woman, that's a crisis if you're pregnant and in school. If you're a 44-year-old woman and you already have a grown child, that could be a crisis too. Our average is about 21. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, well, I was thinking that could be a problem at 44.
Absolutely. So our average is about 21. We try to target a college-age junior, perhaps, is right about the middle. So about half the group is between 14 and 21. The other half is spread out between 21 and 44. We asked their address, and I asked you earlier for your coverage area who's going to be seeing this. It matches up very well. We had a lot of calls from Meriden.
Yep.
We had a lot of calls from Southing, which is interesting because that's the call that said they appreciated that we care. And we had a lot of calls from Cheshire. We get some calls from the New Haven area, some calls from the Waterbury area, and some clients from the Wallingford area. But basically, Cheshire and all the towns around are the people we get. It's kind of funny. We'll ask for a number so we can contact. The young women don't usually want to give their home phone number because they don't want their family to know that they're pregnant.
Right.
Excuse me, but if they have a job, they don't mind giving their work phone number, and they'll always give us their cell phone number because that's private.
Right.
We ask them. Most of the women who call us are single, but there's some women who call us that are married and some call us that are divorced, but mostly single women that call us. We ask about the baby's father. We ask a question right up front, is the baby's father going to be involved? And sad to say, most of the time we ask that question, they say no.
Yeah,
the baby's
tough.
Father is not going to be involved.
Yeah.
We ask how old he is. Usually he's about 2 years older in average than the woman that comes in. We ask if he's employed. It's been for many, many years. A lot of the men are not employed, and with the situation with the economy, the last probably 6 years, 5 years, a lot more unemployed. And sometimes we get a situation where it's a married man and with a single woman, so that further complicates things. We always ask the woman, do you have any problem with drugs or alcohol? Most of the time, she says no. But I've asked a lot of young people, and you have a lot of experience in education. There's a lot of drug and alcohol use among teenagers and people in their 20s, all ages really, and goes all the way up, I'm sure, up to the 40s. Yeah. And the reason we ask that, we're not narcotic officers, but we want to know how that affects the baby. So we ask, when did you use drugs? When did you use alcohol? We want to see at what stage of the pregnancy and how that's affecting them. So we ask that. Emotional stress is not something that we ask, but we try to observe. We run the whole gamut. Some people come in, some women come in, and to them it's Thursday, I'm pregnant, and it's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal because your life is going to change. Some women come in and they're hysterical. They're crying. We have some women that have been suicidal because they're pregnant. So we try to calm them down. And some people come in and they're just staring blankly and just with the shock of the whole thing. So we try to deal with that, listen to them, and work them through it. We ask them if they've been pregnant before. Some have been pregnant before, some haven't. We ask them about their doctor. A lot of times they don't have a doctor, so we want to make sure we refer them to a doctor. We want them to get care during the pregnancy and make sure they have care after the baby's born.
Makes sense.
We asked them, like I said before, about that woman who called from Southington, how did you hear about us? And hopefully they're going to tell me. I'm going to get calls ringing off the hook tomorrow that we saw you on 30 Minutes with Ron. That's what I'm counting on.
Of course.
We make a date. When do they open? When's the baby due, if they know, or find out later from the doctor. We do the pregnancy test. Sometimes they've taken one already. We want to know what that result is, and we'll take another one. If they've taken a test and it says it's negative, but they're sure that it's positive, we have them come back for another test.
Yeah,
that's fine.
makes sense.
Still no charge, still confidential results. We just go through a list. What do you need? Do you need clothing? Do you need maternity clothing, okay, during the pregnancy? Do you need baby clothing for after the baby's born? Do you need furniture for the baby's room, or are you going to settle in a new apartment? Do you need bedroom furniture, kitchen furniture? Tell us what you need. And housing is a big issue. We didn't talk about that before, but so many people need a place to stay. Yep. And there's so limited housing in Meriden, in Southington, and in Cheshire. It's hard to find a rent that's affordable and that's safe. So that's a big, I spend a lot of time doing that, try to find apartments for people. We talked about the doctor, make sure that they have a doctor, and we make sure that we tell them about all the local programs, all the state programs, all the federal programs, and any private local agencies that can help them to meet all of their needs. Again, we make sure we encourage them during the pregnancy to go to one of the local hospitals and take a prenatal class to learn more detail about what to expect.
Yeah.
Again, all through the pregnancy and the hospital experience. And we have the all-important other. We want to make sure that if there's anything else that anyone needs, we'll try to get it for them. Something that comes to mind is one time we had a woman who needed transportation. We don't do this normally, but if someone needs transportation, if we can provide it, we will. And they also needed an interpreter. So we needed transportation and an interpreter. So we met this person at a certain place at a certain time, brought them to the appointment. Turned out they'd mixed up the days, so we had to bring them back, reschedule for another time. So we try to be real careful about times and dates so people get where they have to go on time and in the proper place. So that's pretty much what we do. If we're having an interview, asking you all these questions, these are all the questions we'd ask on the phone or face-to-face. We'd go through and ask all these questions again.
Okay, so now you said you're a social worker.
Yes, I am.
Are there requirements in the state where people have to have certain degrees? You mentioned some kind of what is it? You mentioned the word.
Peer consultant. It's over here. We talked about our needs, their needs being important to us, and we have trained peer consultants, not counselors, quote unquote, but peer consultants. Again, a young woman meeting with another young woman. A man meeting with a young man who's the father of the child. I'll meet with a couple or with the parents. I can't tell you how many times that I've met with a couple with another couple, whatever is needed. So our peer consultants are trained to listen. Again, I'm doing a lot of talking tonight, but usually I'm like you, a lot of listening, asking questions and trying to answer questions. And whatever it is, whatever comes up, to make sure that they're pregnant, they know their due date, and we try to tell them what to expect while they're expecting.
Okay, so I'm one of your clients.
Okay.
And I say to you, I've heard about this thing called fetal alcohol syndrome.
Wow.
Ooh,
okay.
Watch out. What do you tell me?
This is amazing that you say this because we didn't discuss this before. Our very first client, we started in 1985, a long time ago. Our very first client, the woman was an alcoholic, the father was an alcoholic, and the baby was born with the fetal alcohol syndrome. That is amazing that you bring that up, but we didn't discuss it before.
I sneaked
the
it
baby,
in there.
well, that was good. And the baby was born shaking with the shakes. DTs.
Yeah.
Delirium tremens, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so they made a decision that they weren't fit to be parents at that time, and they decided on the adoption plan. We set them up with an adoption agency. So that's one of the reasons we ask the questions about drugs and alcohol. Again, we're not police officers, but we want to know if you're drinking, smoking, using some type of drug, it affects you, but it affects the baby as well. That's a great question.
Also, I had heard that there's some kind of hair on the forearm with the fetal alcohol syndrome. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
Excessive hair on the forearm. It seems strange to me, but that's what I
haven't heard that.
Cool. All right then. The people who work for you, are they all employees or are there volunteers?
Both. We have 4 part-time employees, and we have many volunteers. We couldn't operate without volunteers. So volunteers to do whatever's necessary on any given day. Sometimes it's like Grand Central Station. I don't know, when you came to the office, did you go in or did you go on the porch? Do you remember?
Went in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it busy? Because people are bringing in cribs like you.
Right.
Other people are coming in picking up cribs. The phone is ringing. Clients are here that we're trying to meet. So during the day, it's like Grand Central Station there sometimes.
It wasn't that busy that day.
Well, that's good, but sometimes it is.
Okay, so make believe that I would like to be a volunteer.
Okay.
How do I go about doing that?
All right, well, please call us. I don't know if the number is going to appear on the screen, but it's 203-271-2703. Please call us. We're generally there 10 to 4. We can be Monday to Friday. We can be there available in evenings, like tonight. I'm going back to the office after this, and we can be available on a weekend by an appointment. But generally, we're always open 10 to 4, Monday to Friday. Call. We'll provide training. Whatever skill you have, we have a need to meet that, whether it's an artistic skill for our brochures or a mechanical skill or a people skill, whatever. There's so many needs, and the more people we have, the easier it is for everybody.
Okay, so now I am a substitute in the Cheshire school system.
Okay.
In order to become that, I had to get fingerprinted at the police station.
Okay.
And they did some kind of a background check.
Okay.
How do you vet the people who are possibly going to be a volunteer for you?
That's very interesting. We don't go into that much detail, but we have an application process, we have an interview process, we ask for references, and we follow up on the references. We don't do fingerprinting or anything like that, but we've been very successful since 1985 with many, many good volunteers.
Now, I didn't ask you about your clients.
Okay.
About how many clients do you have in a month or a year, however you want to put it?
I'm glad you asked that because I did bring statistics. I'm not a statistics person, but I brought them just in case. I'll just give you a total for over the years, since 1985. This only goes to 2012. I didn't grab the 2013. But we have received almost 21,000 phone calls since 1985. And we have personally seen in the office over 6,000 people. So many calls come in, not everybody comes into the office. It's safe to say one a day is safe, 300 to 400 a year. One a day comes in with appointments and many, many calls during the day.
It's quite a figure.
We've been around a long time, 1985, a long time ago.
I guess you have. Now, you're not there full time. You do other things in other places.
Yes.
How often are you at the place?
At least once a week, and again, there's always someone there and always available in the evenings and weekends, so that's never a problem. There's always someone there. Someone always is there. If I can't be there, someone will make an appointment.
Okay. So now, I'm not sure if I got to all the questions we talked about. So I want to make sure, is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
I want to bring up some of our needs, if that's okay, if we have a few more minutes.
Yes,
okay.
we do.
You mentioned volunteers. We need volunteers. We couldn't operate without volunteers. We've had volunteers since 1985. We have some volunteers that started with us back then that are still with us, which is wonderful, the long-term commitment. Again, volunteers to do anything, to do office work, to do computer work, to meet with the clients, anything. Things come in, donations go out, pickups, deliveries, and again, anyone who has the time and the interest will find something for you to do. I mentioned host homes. We need host homes. If someone comes in and need a place to stay, we need someone to send them to. The commitment varies. Sometimes we need something immediately for one night. We need someone's home for that. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's the entire pregnancy. Depends on the need. So we need host homes available to do that. I talked that we give out baby clothes for free. Well, if people don't give us the baby clothes, we can't give them out for free. So we need people to give cribs, thank you, high chairs, playpens, anything, donated to us. Glad to give a tax receipt for that. Any type of donation is helpful. We run on donations, so any type of donation is helpful. I circled quilts because over the last 20 years or so, I've had the opportunity to speak to 2 quilting classes, which was really great, and they gave us quilts to give to the new mothers, which leads me to another area. We love to go out to speak. This is a fantastic opportunity. I said we've been around here since 1985. We've never been on Cox Cable. I don't know if there was Cox Cable in 1985.
I think so. I was starting in the 90s. I think it was a little before that.
We've never been here, and we're in town, so we love to get the word out. We love to go to civic groups. You asked about churches before. Any church group that will have us, we're glad to speak to. The opportunities aren't that often, so that's why I grabbed this opportunity to come here to be with you. We can do a 5-minute presentation. We can do a 2-3 hour presentation. When we talk to young people, that's where the questions come from. As an educator, you know, the questions they're not afraid to ask. We're not afraid to give the answers. We need more public relations. This is going to be tremendous to help us. Being on TV, if we can get on the radio, get in the newspaper, it helps people know about us. Always giving out these brochures all the time to everyone. So any opportunity we have. There are groups that need speakers that can't get speakers. And then there are us who don't have the opportunities. So we'd love the presentation will be like this. We can tailor it to the group as long as short, specific things they want to talk about or not talk about. We're available anytime, any place. The calendar is wide open.
All right.
So that's a good thing.
I have some news for you.
Yes.
There is a thing called the Cheshire Community Guide.
Okay.
It's put out by the Cheshire Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And in it, there are a couple of pages of all the groups in Cheshire that have a phone number or an email. And if you haven't got one, I can get you one.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to have all this stuff at your fingertips, and you can call them up and say, hey, would you like a speaker? I can talk like nothing you ever saw.
Love to have that. Thank you.
Cool.
Do you have it with you here? I'll have to get it later.
I may have one in my car, because
All right.
I usually carry a few with me.
In case of emergency.
I designed the cover, but don't tell anybody.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
I didn't design this cover.
No. Another question, when you mentioned a home, a host home, is there an optimal home? Like you wouldn't want someone who's 95 years old to offer their home.
Well,
or maybe not. Maybe you would.
The grandparent is a wonderful thing, and you'd be surprised at the respect that young people have for older people. Sometimes not for their parents' age, but for their grandparents' age. So I wouldn't eliminate anyone. Anyone who has the heart to do it, who cares about young people, can do it. We would sit down just like this and interview. Is it a match for the young person? Is it a match for the family? They set the rules. The person has to abide by the rules. So no, if the person is willing, and if it's a match, and feel they can work together, we've done it. We've done it several times. It doesn't happen all the time, but we've done it many times over the years, and it's always working. I think of one that was difficult that we had to separate, but it usually works out well as long as we sit down and communicate ahead of time.
Now, we have a foster dog in our house. A couple of years ago, we had a visit from the people who had the dogs in their care. So now, would you also visit the house that this person might be going to?
We wouldn't visit the home. No, not necessarily. They would come to the office, and again, we would sit down and discuss it like this. And if that works out, we go. And if there was a problem, yes, we'd go out. Funny you mentioned making a home visit. I have gone with young men and young women to their homes to tell their parents that they're pregnant because they didn't want to do that alone. And that's worked out. Sometimes the fathers get angry, sometimes the mothers cry, but no one's been injured yet.
Okay. I'm thinking about after you've done all this great stuff for either a couple or a single mom, does anyone ever come back and thank you?
Yes, sometimes. That's part of it. The confidentiality limits that because you'll be the client. The client initiates the contact with us, and the client says when they don't need us anymore.
Right.
So I can remember one who came back, and I wasn't there. She came back with the baby, and she said, remember we talked about the doula who helps? She'd become a doula because of the help that we had given to her. And that was very satisfying. We've had some clients who've come back as volunteers, and that's very, because they're the best ones to volunteer because we don't know what it's like to be pregnant, but someone who's been through it does. So yes, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's real gratifying.
Okay, now we actually did not mention the word doula before, and that's one of my favorite words.
Go ahead.
Well, it's some kind of a midwife, but something different than a midwife, right?
And it helps more with the baby after birth, and it helps, again, to train the mother how to take care of the baby.
Aha. And are doulas licensed?
I believe there's a process they go through, yes. I'm not sure the exact. We have one that's available to us, so I'm not sure of all the details on that.
Okay. Now we're getting around to the 30-second time when everything has to be wrapped up.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add for our listening and viewing audience?
Just want to mention, free and confidential, please call us, 203-271-2703. Please check out the website.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been very informative.
Thank you.
And I'm glad I gave a crib one time.
I'm glad you did
I almost
too.
gave another one, but they're not allowed because they don't
have to be
follow
new.
restrictions.
They have to be
so
new.
we couldn't do it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whoever was watching, I would like to thank you on behalf of 30 Minutes with Ron. Bye-bye.